as mentioned, right now we are very pleased to be joined on the line. He is one of Elias Pettersson's agents. He is Pat Brisson. Pat, thank you very much for making time for us today. How are you? And first of all, congratulations to you and your client on the big new deal signed over the weekend.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks, Tom. I mean, it was an exciting moment, and we're glad that it got done, and especially during this busy period with the trade deadline coming up. We have so many other moving parts, till Friday. So it was good to thank you. I appreciate it. It was good to get it done for sure.
Pat, can you give us a sense of what the past week has been for you and for your client leading up to Saturday's big announcement?
Well, I mean, like I said, these discussions started probably right around the draft in Nashville last June, and then let's not forget that Petey was a potential RFA at another year left after this year as before becoming UFA, and at no point he had any intention of leaving Vancouver. But he wanted to take his time, which is fair. Normally, players in this situation, those deals are normally done either at the end of their current contracts, and because they're not UFA. So usually we kind of wait, and he was fine. That's what he wanted to do, and but then the talks took more turn for a little bit more. It became more extensive, perhaps the past 2 weeks as Jim and Patrick elaborated clearly to us that they would like to get this done sooner the better in order to continue to build the puzzle. And Elias understood that and understood where the Canucks were going, and it meant a lot for them and for him if you're going to be part of this important puzzle there. You can help us by getting it done now, so we know getting to the trade deadline prior to July 1st, also in the draft, it gives us more time to really, continue building this thing around you and some of the core players.
Pat's been reported, The Athletic, Sportsnet, a variety of places, that there was a meeting between Jim and Patrick and Elias earlier this week in which, they just discussed why not now, given that we are all comfortable with where this is trending ahead of the deadline. When one of your clients is in a spot like Elias, franchise caliber guy, and they're going to go into a meeting with management like that, how do you prepare? What are the priorities from an agent side on preparing a player for that pitch?
Well, you want to make sure, first of all, that your client is ready, and depending on the circumstances or the situation going in or the subject, you want to make sure that he's 100% ready. So there's so many different situations where management is meeting directly with players for all types of reasons. So in this case, it was fair for Jim and Patrick to elaborate their plan. We've done that a few times throughout the process. And most recently, they had another meeting with him, and just it's all about communication. And sometimes it's good to let the management having these conversations directly with the player. A lot of times, I'm involved. I'm either there with them, or in this case, I not that I needed to be on the phone or conference call. I mean,
right.
We went over the subject and the pieces that they were going to talk to him about, and I trust the Jim and Patrick that they went accordingly. And that's how they did it, and just basically expressing to Petey, their plan, and for such an important decision, it's important for the player to, I believe, to go through it and make sure to absorb it.
You talk about the trust between the player and management, Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin, Pat, and we had heard from Elias Pettersson before the season, right? I want to see how this how this season goes, how we perform as a team. We've heard other times in his career that winning is so important to him. How important was it for Pettersson to see kind of, not just hear from management that they have a certain vision for the team, but see it play out on the ice in a really successful manner so far with the Canucks this season?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I don't think we're having these types of conversations, last 2 weeks if the team is going south and going the wrong direction, perhaps. So the momentum that's been built in the last 6 to 8 months, or even started last year, was also encouraging for Elias to make the decision. And so that was part of the decision of signing with the Canucks. See, there's lots of teams that are going in the right direction too, and we can say during summertime, well, this team or that team or that team will do well this year. They're going to do this and that, and then less than 6 months later, you realize the opposite. So, it's important to go through the process and to go through it, and it was very encouraging to see that the Canucks continue to get better, and for Petty to obviously make his decision much easier that way.
Pat, one of the things that struck me immediately seeing the news of the contract was that it was for the full 8 years, the max term available on the extension. Was that always something that appealed to Elias Pettersson? Were there other lengths of contract discussed? How did he land on signing up for that full 8-year term?
Yeah, every time we explore new contract extension or contract itself, depending on the type of options that the player has, including leverage. I mean, you look at a player like Elias. I mean, he's 25, going on 26 when his next season starts. So if you do a 5-year deal, which we could have explored as well, he's up at 31, and you obviously would have gotten lower AAV on a 5-year deal. So the question becomes, do you want 5 years for about 55, or you want to explore 8 years for $93 million? It's a $38 million delta. And the question you have to ask yourself, are you going to sign a 3-year deal at age 31, 32, 33 that's going to be exceeding 38 to 40 million guaranteed? That's not certain either. So you get that guaranteed money coming to you, and that way you have that guaranteed. So the alternative, if you go 5 years, which you could have gone 5 years, you have your options sooner to extend, but at that time you may not be a $15 or $16 million player, even if the cap goes up. So we explored everything with him, and it thought it made sense, and that's how we ended up on an 8-year deal.
Pat, as I'm sure you know, very passionate fans, very passionate marketplace here in Vancouver, and there had been an awful lot of discussion, especially really over the last week or 10 days or so before Elias Pettersson signed this contract. And we had even heard from Pettersson himself in a couple of interviews and from Rick Tocchet saying, yeah, Petey hears the noise, and maybe it is starting to weigh on him, and he's trying to deal with it and push through it. Did that noise and the sense that maybe it was becoming a distraction for the player and the team help push Pettersson to say, you know what, let's get this deal done now?
I'm not so sure. I mean, the distractions, when the player doesn't perform as well, we always try to find reasons what's going on with him or the team. And teams go through cycles as well. Everything is cyclical. You don't want to be in the dip too long, but I think it's healthy you can't be going up all the time. Sometimes the adversity is a good thing throughout the year in order to prepare for the playoffs. Not that you plant that seed into your calendar, but at the same time, I don't think it had anything to do with that. It was basically clear from the team standpoint that they really wanted to express to us the importance of keeping Petty as an asset, because it's going to help them through this trade deadline to acquire or to do what they have to do. Now they know where he's at going forward. And only that, it's going to help them go into the summer as well in advance, instead of waiting till June 28th or 29th and then past the draft to see it. Those are big chips, and those are big parts of the puzzle, and it's better to get them solidified sooner the better. And that the timing of it was basically, the process that we went through, and then maybe the trade deadline and all that. And I know there were a bunch of rumors around the league and all that, but I don't, we didn't sweat on those.
Pat, one of the most fascinating trends for players and their agents over the past 5 or 6 years has been sort of a blurring of the lines between unrestricted and restricted free agency, especially with the size and length that we're seeing of some second contracts. Now, though, it feels like the last couple of summers, we're also seeing a blurring of the lines between sort of UFA and RFA with concepts of team control and how players can use their leverage, even with a year remaining ahead of unrestricted free agency, to, call their shot in terms of moving teams. How much are you aware, just in general, but obviously in Pettersson's case as well, of how teams are thinking of this concept and sort of managing their risk a bit differently than they have in years past?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you recall, but geez, in 2004, before the cap was established, free agency was, I think, 30, yeah. 31 years old.
Right.
And I remember that day when this came about, with the cap system, free agency went to 27 or 7 years of services.
Mm-hmm.
It's all part of the game now. It's all part of the business. If we had a non-cap system, and perhaps free agency would be at 30, 31 years old again, and then things would be different. Now teams have to be aware that players have more leverage at a certain point quicker into their career, since there's a cap on salaries, and therefore they have the leverage at one point, some of them, to decide to go where they want to go and extend whatever they want. It's part of the system. And the player has a year left on his contract, and he's a UFA the following year. And he does have leverage. Not everyone has leverage. You see, we only see the cases of players who do look good and have the leverage, and then we put so much emphasis on this, but we forget a lot of the players who don't have the leverage. It's probably 95% of the players don't have the leverage, and the ones who do, they should exercise it and make a decision. It's a choice to sign an extension or to go to the market they want to, and that's concept that was sold back in the days.
Right.
That put a cap system in place, there's going to be a lot more movement within the system, and that's what we're dealing with right now.
And have you noticed any change in terms of players who are RFAs, like 1 year away from unrestricted free agency, sort of in the wake of what we consider to be the Tkachuk precedent from teams? Does that change sort of the urgency with which teams approach players in that sort of stage of their career?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it now. I mean, like I said, with Vancouver, I mean, it was important to them to hopefully try to get an answer from us. The sooner the better, but we're happy here. He was very happy and where the team is going, but if they were fighting for a wild card, or let's say way below, who knows how the conversation would have gone? I don't know. Like, so teams have to evaluate also where they're at in their process, and that's why teams are going to have to evaluate also whether to sign an asset longer when they're out of entry level and kind of tie them up, but also you don't know what that asset's going to become a lot of times. So it's a little bit of a gamble. You can't give 8-year deals to all your entry level players either. So that's why it's a complicated game, and that's why there's only one team winning the cup, and there's 31 other teams unhappy
every summer. Pat, thanks so much for your time and your insight. I just want to ask you one more, because it's trade deadline week, and for us as Sports Talk Radio hosts and our listeners, that's an exciting time filled with hope and potential prospects and dreams of a long playoff run. But within the business, for your clients, for their families, obviously it's a nerve-wracking week. And in addition to having a massive roster of NHL star clients, you're also a hockey dad. You have more information in terms of managing that sort of anxiety than your average hockey dad, but nonetheless, is this week an unnerving one for you, especially given that your son Brendan's a young player in a contending organization?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I'm a dad first. I mean, and I'm emotional like any other dad. And when I watch my sons play and what he does and what he's going to do, or all that stuff. I mean, that's first and foremost. And I try to hopefully at times stay in my lane, which it's not easy for anyone. If you're a good parent, we care about our kids. So, but at the same time, it gives me a different perspective on things about what players are going through sometimes. And I think it got me to be better as an agent because I understand players perhaps better and parents over the years. Both Jim Hughes and I go way back. I mean, we spend a lot of times with our kids. I mean, he's got 3 kids in the NHL. And we spend a lot of time with our player development and where we're going with it in our business, and we can see firsthand what players are going through our kids too. I mean, so yeah, to answer your question, it's sometimes a double whammy. You got the anxiety and the excitement of what's going on with your clients and the uncertainties, and then you have your own kids in the mix. So it's a little crazy sometimes, for sure.
Pat, we really appreciate you spending some time with us, and congratulations again on the deal. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.